you believe in a God of vengeance, that will create vengeful people, right? On the other hand, if you want to pursue peace, you must dispense with the view of God as some settler of scores, right? Actually, the Apostle Paul argues precisely the opposite. First, he calls us to peace. We are meant to be peaceable people. Romans chapter 12 from verse 17. Paul writes, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my friends." There is a realism here, as far as it depends on you, don't cause trouble. But there's also, in amongst the realism, there is a supernatural expectation. Live at peace with everyone. And this is explicitly in the context of evil that is done to the Christian. This is the occasion when vengeance and wrath will be rising up in us as people do us evil. Surely evil will be kind of rising up in us like flames in us that we just want to unleash on other people. How on earth can you bottle that up? How on earth can you resist the urge to retaliate? Well, Paul continues in verse 19. "Do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord.' On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." There is a place for wrath, but that place is not in our hands. We are no good at wrath, but God is. The whole practice of vengeance belongs to the Father Almighty. He takes care of the payback business. He's good at his job, and he promises to settle scores with perfect justice. Therefore, says Paul, you are free to love your enemies in extraordinary and counter-conditional ways. And it's God's vengeance that is the grounds for your peacemaking. If that still sounds odd, perhaps we should allow Miroslav Volf to teach us. He is a Croatian theologian whose family and community saw terrible violence during the ethnic cleansing of the early 90s. He writes that the practice of nonviolence requires a belief in divine vengeance. He realizes that we in the comfortable West may balk at this, but he asks us to face the realities of evil, which remain for most of us a distant theory. Volf says, "Imagine speaking to people, as I have, whose cities and villages have been plundered, then burned, leveled to the ground, whose daughters and sisters have been raped, whose fathers and brothers have had their homes destroyed and their throats slit. Your point to them, why should they not retaliate? Well, why not? I say the only means of prohibiting violence is to insist that violence is only legitimate when it is coming from God." Volf says, only the God who is good at vengeance can enable a victim of evil to resist becoming a perpetrator. There is a judgment to come, a perfect righting of wrongs. So there's no need for vigilante justice. We can all entrust judgment to Christ, who through his cross showed himself perfect in justice. But even more than this, when a Christian knows of the judgment to come, it can inspire something truly remarkable: pity for the evildoer. Corrie ten Boom told the story of her imprisonment at Ravensbrück concentration camp. She wrote in the book The Hiding Place that one day she and her sister Betsy were forced to watch a concentration camp matron beating a prisoner. "Oh, the poor woman," Corrie cried. "Yes," Betsy replied. "May God forgive her." You see, Corrie was crying for the prisoner, Betsy was praying for the guard. As their father had once said, "I pity the poor Germans. They have touched the apple of God's eye." And you think, how can anyone pity a concentration camp guard? How can anyone pity the perpetrators of the Holocaust? Only those who know there is a woe greater than Ravensbrück, and a power far higher than the Nazis. In the light of that day, everyone becomes an object of our sympathy, even our foulest enemies. It is the vengeance of God, that creates peacemakers. Therefore today, entrust judgment to the Father Almighty and bring peace to the world.